What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Cosmic Wonder. I'm Warren Thompson, and it's been a while, but Marvel is back with their latest show, Secret Invasion. So right away, let me know your thoughts on Secret Invasion so far. What did you think about episode 1? And also let us know who you think is a SKRULL. I know I have my eye on a few people who I believe could be SKRULL, but let me know what you think in the comments right away. And also, just to get this out of the way, this is a full breakdown of Secret Invasion episode 1. So, needless to say, there will be spoilers talked about in this video. If you are trying to avoid any and all spoilers, this is your warning. And speaking of spoilers, we're going to dive right into this with the ending. The supposed death, and I say that very purposefully, of Maria Hill. She has been in the MCU for a very long time, and she was a pretty big part of the first Avengers film, and she's been a pretty big part of the MCU since then. And the end of episode 1 showed us her dying. Gravik transformed himself into Nick Fury. He went up to Maria Hill. She thought it was Fury, but it wasn't. It was Gravik, and he shot her. And at the end, he supposedly killed her. Now, the big question is she actually dead? Do you think so? Let us know in the comments right now. I personally do not think she is dead. I think there are too many variables in this show and simply in the MCU that could make it to where she is still alive. One is that this character could be a SKRULL. We have literally seen a SKRULL disguised as Maria Hill. In fact, Talos' wife was disguised as her in Spider-Man Far From Home. So could this simply be another SKRULL disguised as Maria Hill, or is she really dead? Now, I'll play devil's advocate to my own theory here. We did kind of see her die, and she did not turn into a SKRULL, which they do, as we saw in episode 1. But maybe they cut away just a little bit too early for us to actually see that. And another thing is, obviously, in certain situations for special people, they do get brought back in some way, shape, or form. We think about Agent Coulson from the very first Avengers film. Loki stabbed him through the back, out his chest. They still managed to revive him. So that is also a possibility as well. But at the same time, I will say, if you want to start a show with a bang and truly show us that the SKRULLs, and specifically their leader, Gravik, means business, killing off a beloved character who we've had in the MCU for a very long time is a great way to show that. And after this, you can't really complain about stakes when they killed off a major important character. But will she return in a future episode? We will have to wait and see. Now, throughout this episode, there are very important things that you need to make sure that you know moving forward in episode 2 and beyond. So let's go ahead and break this thing down scene by scene. Now, we open up in Moscow with who we think is Everett Ross, played by Martin Freeman. Of course, we go on to find out it is not. He gets a call from Agent Prescott, and he says he'll be right there. Then Agent Prescott into a monologue narration. He is speaking to Everett Ross, but he's also speaking to us, the audience. And with this monologue, they are basically putting the notion in our head that we can't trust anyone. And what they do is try to relate it to our actual lives, our real lives. That way the show is that much more compelling, and they do a great job at that. He starts off by saying, imagine a world where information can't be trusted. It's not very hard, is it? Which it's not. Not with all of the apps that we have nowadays, not with targeted advertising. Plus, not to mention, your phones are pretty much always listening to you. But he continues and goes, society starts to fray if you can't trust information. He says, all we can turn to are the people we care about. But what if those people aren't who we thought they were? What if the ones closest to us, the ones we trusted our whole lives, were someone else entirely? And that right there is basically the premise of the entire show. The story is about aliens who can shapeshift, who are now fighting against Earth, essentially. And humans, and specifically the ones fighting against the SKRULL, have no idea who they can trust ever, because they think they can trust somebody, but they could be a SKRULL in disguise. And Agent Prescott has caught on to what the SKRULL rebellion is doing. He has gone full Charlie Day meme in this scene. We see him connecting a lot of different events with yarn. We see his post-it notes that say, Bagada Terror connected to heist. Who is the target? We see more post-its that say terror in Munich, mass shooting, motive, ? We see other newspaper articles that say London explosion, a post-it that says 26 dead. He is basically tracking separate events, and in this scene he explains that they are all linked because they are all SKRULL disguised as other humans, pretending they are from a certain nation, attacking another nation so that the world will essentially be at war. And Agent Prescott explains this with a major desperate desperation. Yes, he is coming off as a crazy conspiracist, but in this case, he is right and he knows that he is right. And he seems a little desperate and he seems a little hopeless as well. He connects everything. He says there have been 5 attacks in this year alone, each claimed by a different group. But that's what they want you to think. He says Argentina taxes Colombia and then Colombia taxed the Philippines. And these acts are basically starting a world war, which of course is what the SKRULL want. The SKRULL are disguised as other countries, and they're basically going around pissing off the other countries of the world, blaming it on whoever. They are basically causing a chain reaction, and now the world is at war. And who, of course, is behind it? The SKRULL. Now, Ross laughs at it. Now, of course, we know he laughs at it because he is indeed a SKRULL, and he doesn't want him to know everything. But then Prescott takes us down memory road and says, come on, this didn't start yesterday. It started 30 years ago. And he's talking about the events that took place in Captain Marvel. And he says Carol Danvers, aka Captain Marvel, and Nick Fury promised to find the SKRULL a home. Now it's 30 years later. Fury did not deliver on his promise. They do not have a home, but now they want Earth. And Prescott tries to set the setting for the show even more by saying there could be thousands or tens of thousands out there we don't know. Now, fake Ross says that, but their only contact is Fury. There are allies, but Prescott points to the fact that Fury has been gone 4 years now on Saber. Now, Saber is the space station that we saw in the post-credit scene of Spider-Man No Way Home. When Talos called Nick Fury, he was on Saber. That's where we saw him with other SKRULL. We also see him on Saber in the trailer for The Marvels, Captain Marvel 2. So no doubt that this show will tie into The Marvels. Now, fake Ross says that I can't just call Nick Fury, I need actual evidence, and that's what Prescott has. Now, Prescott gives him this evidence and he says, I can only show it to you because I don't know who to trust. But right when he says that, he gets this really odd look on his face. And what he's thinking in this moment is, wait, how do I know this is Ross? I don't know. This could be a SKRULL. Now, what he gave him was essentially an attack plan of the SKRULL, their next attack that we see happen at the end of this episode. We don't get a full glimpse of the hologram, but what we can make out at the very bottom is we do see Gravik in his SKRULL form, and as it continues, he turns into his human form. We haven't seen him in his SKRULL form yet, not in episode 1. They're probably saving that reveal for later. Now, as he says, I don't know who I can trust anymore, Ross says, hey, look, you can trust me. I'll take this to Fury. But Prescott knows what's up. He knows he's a SKRULL and he attacks him and he almost kills him. But unfortunately, this SKRULL does end up shooting and killing Prescott. And I find this whole beginning scene quite interesting because they are trying to play this off like some people that we have seen in real life and have essentially been made fun of and had movies and shows made about them. That big conspiracy theorist person who believes aliens are out there, who believes aliens have infiltrated us, that of course nobody believes, but in this instance, he turns out to be right. The crazy conspiracy guy is right. The aliens have infiltrated us. Now, of course, at this point in time, we don't know that Ross is a SKRULL, so we think that a SKRULL is chasing him. He runs, he runs, he runs. And what's really interesting here is that he actually calls for an extraction and Maria Hill is there to intercept. So she truly believes that this is Everett Ross. He has Everett Ross's phone. He has tech that he can communicate with Maria Hill with. And we know from Black Panther Wakanda Forever, Ross isn't here. Right now, he's actually probably in Wakanda. But this shows us that the SKRULL have infiltrated SWORD, so we wonder what else have they infiltrated. Now, the SKRULL disguised as Ross runs until he makes a jump that he can't actually make. He falls, he gets really, really hurt. The person chasing him reveals himself to be Talos. And here's a real important line. The SKRULL ends up dying, and Maria says, he's one of you, but Talos says, no. He's one of them. And what he means is, no, he's not one of me. I'm a SKRULL that is on your side. But now there is a SKRULL resistance rebelling against us who are tired waiting on that promise of a new world, a new home for them. And they are now going to take Earth as their new home. So we have a division with the SKRULL where they were all good before. They were all trusting of Nick Fury, but because he has not kept his promise, and Carol Danvers as well, they don't care anymore. They're pissed and they're taking what is theirs. So we cut past the opening credits and we go to Nick Fury arriving on Earth from Saber. And if you notice, this is not the same Nick Fury that we know. He touches the ground because he hasn't felt the actual Earth in a very long time. Then he touches his knee because now he's on Earth with far more gravity than the artificial gravity that they had on Saber. Maria Hill shows up to pick him up and he limps over to her, showing us that this really isn't the Nick Fury we know, and that is a pretty common theme throughout this entire first episode. Fury finally meets up with Talos and he sees that he has grown a SKRULL plant on Earth. He says that his wife Soren brought them wherever she went, so she must have brought some seeds or actual flowers from their home world when they came to Earth. He's planted it and it has grown, proving that their plants, their habitat, can survive on Earth. Fury says, "You've always believed that could happen," and Talos says, "I still do," and that's important because that shows that Talos is still on Fury's side and still believes that the SKRULL, the good ones, and in his heart, the rebels, can still peacefully coincide with humans. He even says it's changed since she planted it. It's adapted, and that is kind of what the SKRULL have done. They have changed, they've adapted since they've been on Earth. They greet each other by touching their heads together, and this has been explained to be a SKRULL greeting. It is very intimate, and it shows us that Nick Fury and Talos care for each other a great deal. Now, Fury says that he is so sorry, and what he is referring to here is the death of Talos' wife, Soren. We find out that she died later on in the episode where Talos tells his daughter, G'iah. But Talos says she worried that it would take something like this to bring you back down to Earth. Talos says, "I guess she was right," and Nick Fury, you can tell, really takes that to heart. He is really affected by it, especially because he knows that this is kind of his fault. He did not find the SKRULL another world to live on. He didn't find them a home. And here we find out why Nick Fury is different. Talos says, "We did what we can to help you stick true to your promise, but after the blip, after Nick Fury was snapped and then came back, he was different, and then he disappeared. He left Earth and went to Saber. Then Carol Danvers also disappeared. Then he says that his daughter G'iah disappeared, who was played by Emilia Clarke that we meet later on in the episode. Then he says something very important. He explains that he was kicked off of the council. Now he's talking about a SKRULL council, the leaders of the SKRULL who determine kind of what they do. He was kicked off, and now Gravik, the main villain of the show, is put on the council, and Talos was exiled. So it basically tells us Talos has no more power with the SKRULL, and most of them are with Gravik, including his daughter G'iah. We learned from the plans that Agent Prescott got that the SKRULL are living basically at nuclear plants because they are not affected by radiation, and humans are, so they'll never go near them. And if they do, they'll just kill them anyways. But here's where the SKRULL plan is revealed. There's a radicalist group called the AARP, Americans Against Russia. The SKRULL's plan are to shapeshift and disguise themselves as the AARP and attack Russia, making it seem like the United States are the ones who attacked Russia, starting a world war. Talos explains, if this happens, your species will cease to exist because Gravik is basically going to unleash war and weapons and nuclear weapons, and war are essentially going to wipe out the humans until there are only SKRULL remaining. So this establishes the threat of the SKRULL. It's not just that they are disguising themselves as probably high up officials in different countries, but they are also trying to kill basically all humans and take the world as their own. They're not trying to rule over humans. They want the humans completely gone, and they want Earth to be the home of the SKRULL. Then we cut to a clip of Rhodey, who is working for the president, basically ratting out Fury and Maria Hill. He says, hey, Fury left Saber, and they intercepted an encrypted message from Maria Hill to Nick Fury that they can't decode. And he tells the president both of them went AWOL, which stands for absent without official leave, meaning they left when they weren't supposed to. Now, the president says Fury was developing the most complex aerospace defense system in the history of mankind. He can't just leave, and he tells Rhodey to deal with it. Now, this scene right here makes me think that Rhodey might be a SKRULL. It's very odd that he would just rat out Nick Fury and Maria Hill like this, especially given all of their history together with the Avengers. However, Rhodey is a high-positioned official now. Perhaps he could just be taking his job rather seriously, but go ahead and let us know in the comments down below. Do you think Rhodey is a SKRULL or not? Now, we see that Fury went for a walk, and he did this for a very intentional purpose. He wanted to be found by MI6. But quick important little detail here, as he's walking down the street, he sees two people making out. They stop and the woman looks at him. This is the woman that Gravik would turn into at the very end of the episode, right before he sets off the bombs. This shows us that Gravik has been following him everywhere. He knows Fury's moves because he is literally following Fury in disguise, and of course Fury wouldn't know, although it does look like he has a hunch right here. We then see a little girl throw a ball, and we see the same ball later on in that scene when Gravik is switching people as well. Again, confirming Gravik has been following Fury, disguised as other people. Now again, Fury went on the walk so he could intentionally get kidnapped by Sonya Falsworth, the head of MI6. And that is exactly what happens. He gets kidnapped, they start saying hello, and Fury, very spy-like, puts a contact lens camera on an owl statue. This, of course, is so he can infiltrate later and listen in and see what she is going to say about the Skrull and what their plans are to take care of the Skrull. Now, what's interesting here is that Falsworth knows he was in Saber. She says, "Is this why you came down from your little space station?" Because she knows that Nick Fury personally knows Gravik, telling us that there is a pretty big history between the two of them. And we find this out more in episode 2. Now, Fury asks Sonya what she knows about recent Skrull activity. She says nothing, and he says, "Hey, look, I know you're lying, obviously." But then Sonya drops the bomb. She says, "I think Thanos' snap changed you," which is exactly what Talos said. And again, this is telling us this Nick Fury is not the same Nick Fury that we've known from the Avengers. And because of this, Sonya does not want to work with Nick Fury. MI6 does not want to work with, well, rogue sword agents, and especially Fury because he hasn't been in the game in a long time now. She even says, "Hey, you didn't see my men coming, so there's no way you'll see the Skrull coming." However, of course, Nick Fury did get captured on purpose so they could take him to Sonya. However, at the same time, we know Gravik is watching him. He's right next to him, and Fury doesn't know that. So he doesn't see the Skrull coming. Sonya says, "Yeah, we've worked together in the past, but no, we're not working together now. You should go back home. You are not the same person." But the whole entire reason that Nick Fury wanted to get captured is not because he thought she was going to tell him everything that she knew. In fact, he knew she wouldn't. He just wanted to put that camera and microphone in her room so he could listen to what she won't tell him. Then we cut to one of those nuclear plants that they said the Skrull were living at. We see a young man walk up to a gate. The guards ask, "What do you want?" And he says, "Home in my own skin." And this is no doubt a code, a phrase used by the Skrull to let the others know, "Hey, I'm a Skrull. It's me." But of course, they still have to test this. As G'iah comes out, she says, "Take your natural form." Basically, prove you're a Skrull. He does, and G'iah says, "Welcome to New Skrullos." Now, Skrullos was the original planet that the Skrull are from. They are now on Earth, and they are trying to take it for themselves, so they call it New Skrullos. Now, in the car on the way to their base, G'iah asks Beto when the last time he ate was. He says he doesn't know, so it's obviously been a very long time. She opens up the glove box and shows him some type of a fruit from Skrullos, their homeworld. And she says, "Whatever you did to get here, it was worth it. So whatever dangers you put yourself in, it's worth it because we basically have our home here." So this shows us that G'iah truly does believe in this cause, but she specifically believes in helping her fellow Skrull and finding a new home. She doesn't necessarily believe in eliminating the entire human race. She more believes in helping be a refuge for people, a safe haven. And she even says that no, not all of these people here are a part of the resistance. They come here to seek shelter, to be safe, and to be who they are. And we see little Skrull children playing, having fun. We see people cooking and making food. And she explains that there are 500 strong. However, they can't leave. That is why they take their Skrull forms, because they can't leave. However, the people in the resistance, the warriors, they can leave, but when they leave, they have to stay attached to their shell, meaning they can't take their true Skrull form. That way, it makes it a lot harder for people to detect who they actually are. The next thing, we find out what the Skrull are really up to, and we find out that they really are a lot more dangerous than we know. We see a warrior pledging himself to the cause, and then they say, "Bring out the shell," and the shell is a human that was a part of the AAR, Americans Against Russia. So the Skrull takes the shape of this American. Then they put him in some type of Skrull device that they have made that seemingly kind of puts them in a coma-like state, which then allows the Skrull to take their minds. So this is extremely dangerous because they could not remember everything before. They could only remember a handful of years, but now with this technology, it looks like when they take the shape of somebody and take their mind, they could remember everything about this person's life, every moment. So they could literally become this person and nobody could really ever know. And this is why the Skrull are such a huge threat. Rhodey could be a Skrull. Maria Hill could have been a Skrull. The president could be a Skrull. Hawkeye, Spider-Man, literally anybody can be a Skrull. Now, we've seen this technology used in Captain Marvel, but it looks like they somehow managed to make this technology work again on Earth. And this is what they have been using to disguise themselves as other countries attacking other countries. In this example, they are disguising themselves as Americans, and they are going to attack Russia to try and get a war started between the United States and Russia. They are essentially having these countries attack each other to do the work for them. The Skrull don't have to kill everybody if everybody is already killing each other. Now we cut back to Nick Fury, Talos, and Maria Hill. And the camera that Nick Fury inserted before at Sonya's place is paying off big time. He spies on them and essentially learns that there are only a few people in Russia who could make the bombs that the Skrull plan on using, and they pinpoint it down to one. And Sonya says they're going there, they're gonna infiltrate it, they're gonna take them out. And Fury says, all right, we're going. And yeah, we're gonna take out MI6 operatives, because if they get to them first, then they're going to kill all of the Skrull, not just the rebels, not just the bad ones, but literally all of them. And Talos and Fury know they're not all bad. There are a lot of good Skrull out there, but if they don't get to them first, Sonya and MI6 are gonna kill everyone. Now here we finally meet Gravik, our main villain, who is quickly told that Fury has landed back on Earth. He is here in Russia. But Pagan tells him there's nothing to worry about. They say he looks old, he walks with a limp. But Gravik knows this. He has been watching Fury. He has been keeping track of him. And I learned in my interview with Kingsley Benadir, the actor who plays Gravik, that one, Gravik does not trust anybody, which is why he keeps tabs on everything himself, and two, he kind of messes and toys with people, not just Fury, but his own people as well, because he doesn't trust anybody. So when Pagan tells him, you're the cause, he says, no, I'm not the cause, kind of talking down to him like, you idiot, I'm not the cause, a new home is the cause. And now they're going out to enact their plan, and they're not going to stop until the Earth is theirs. And then we see Pagan grab G'iah, and we find out that it's her job to go and get the bombs from this dirty bomb maker that Sonya was talking about. So now we have three different parties going after the bombs. We have the Skrull, we have Sonya with MI6, and we have Nick Fury, Maria Hill, and Talos all trying to get the bombs. MI6 is there first, so Talos very easily takes out the MI6 operatives. He doesn't kill them because that's not what Talos wants to do, but he does take them out. So MI6 is out of the game, so now it is just Talos, Fury, and Hill against G'iah. Fury tries to get in the back way, but there's a chain on the door in which Talos easily breaks, and this shows us that the Skrull are a bit stronger than humans, and some of them are a lot stronger than humans, because Talos easily rips this chain off the door. Then we get an awesome joke here. When Talos rips the chain off the door, Nick Fury says, not bad for a 136-year-old, but Talos explains he's not even in his 40s yet in human years. He hasn't even gone through his midlife crisis. But then he asks Fury what he got for his midlife crisis, and he says, the Avengers, which is a pretty great joke that we love to hear. And it also tells us that the Avengers are his team. He started the Avengers Initiative. And as we've seen in some of the trailers that have come out for Secret Invasion, Fury says that he can't call in the Avengers because this is his fight. He has to fight this alone. Plus, not to mention, who knows if he could even trust any of the Avengers that would show up. They could be Skrull. So Nick Fury and Talos go inside, but they're a little late. G'iah has already gotten the bombs, but Maria Hill spots her as she's trying to leave. She lets Nick Fury know and says that she's gonna tell her. Then we come to a very interesting scene. Nick Fury and Talos go to talk to the person who they know to be the dirty bomb maker. He of course is disguised as somebody who sells fine art and highly valued collectibles like the King Louis chair that Nick Fury sits in. And here we see a few things. One, we see some really good spy work. We see Nick Fury in action, and we also know that they have intel on this person. He says he has a meeting with his wife, but Fury says to Agent Keller, a code name that he is calling Talos, so he doesn't have to actually say Talos, so the Skrull doesn't know who he is. He asks if he has a wife, and he says, no, our intel says that he is divorced and she lives in Miami. So they know he's lying. Fury says, everybody gets one line, nobody gets two. Of course, he lies again, saying he doesn't know anything about a dirty bomb, doesn't even know the term. But then Talos steps in and finds out quickly that he is a Skrull. And then he says, your name is not Keller, it's Talos. So this person, this Skrull, actually recognizes the human form that Talos takes. Now remember, Talos was exiled and he's a big enemy of Gravik, which means a lot of people probably know who Talos is and know his human form. But the other interesting part about this scene here is that Talos does not want the help of Nick Fury. He says it is his fight. Even when he is seemingly getting beaten, he says, no, it's my fight. But ultimately, Fury ends up killing the Skrull. And Talos is pretty upset after stating that it was his fight. And I believe that he says this because he didn't want to actually kill the Skrull. He doesn't want to harm fellow Skrull. He understands that some are frustrated, but he doesn't want to kill any of them. So maybe he was hoping to just detain him. So he's pretty upset when Fury kills him. Meanwhile, Maria Hill is following G'iah, and they get into a fight in which G'iah wins pretty easily because she's a Skrull. They're stronger than humans. However, Talos follows and quickly realizes that it's his daughter, G'iah, who ran away from him and his wife, her mother. They talk and he says, "The last thing your mother told me was to find you," essentially telling G'iah, your mother is dead. And Talos says that the people responsible for it are the people that she is with, Gravik. Talos tries to get the bombs from his daughter. He even puts his gun down because he's not going to harm his daughter and he wants her to come back to his side. She says no and even gives him the littlest, tiniest push, and he kind of just accepts that and he lets her go. He can stop her, but he lets her go in hopes that he can actually persuade her to come back to his side. She gets away and hides and takes a moment to mourn the loss of her mother. Then Fury and Hill go to a bar and Fury is staring in the mirror. Then a random man at the bar says, "You can stare all you want, but you'll never be the man you once were." Now, if you notice, this man is one of the people that Gravik transforms into in the final scene when Fury is chasing him. So it seems like this man right here at the bar is Gravik, and he is kind of, like I mentioned, toying with Fury at this point in time, stating, "You'll never be the man that you once were. You are not the same Fury." And this is the exact conversation that Nick Fury and Hill have while they're playing chess. And once again, we hear that Fury was never the same after the blip, and Hill got dusted too. Let's not forget that, but she says, "You haven't been the same. Since that happened, you have been a different person and you are not ready for this." Now, G'iah delivers the bombs, but she does lie. She says, "Somebody was waiting for me." Pagan asks if it's someone she can identify, and she lies and says, no, obviously she can, it's her father. But since this group, the Resistance, apparently killed her mom, she no longer trusts them. And she suggests postponing the attack, but they say no, they now have the bait. So then we see her meet up with her father. How they got in contact with each other remains to be a mystery at this point in time. Perhaps they have cellular devices that the others don't know about, and perhaps can't detect any signal or messages from, but they do get in contact with each other. Both disguised, obviously. Talos is a cab driver. He picks her up when she's disguised as another woman. And G'iah basically says the attack is tomorrow, and Gravik knows you'll be there. Talos asks how, and she says she doesn't know, but he knows that they're gonna be there because he has been disguised as these random people following Nick Fury. Or, and I have a theory about this, he might not trust G'iah, and he might actually rely on her not trusting him to deliver the information to them to make sure they actually know. This could be a setup, a ruse by Gravik, because it seems like he clearly doesn't trust her, but trusts that she'll go and tell her father what is about to happen. And I think it's probably a bit of both. Gravik is definitely following Nick Fury around disguised as these other people, but he definitely doesn't trust G'iah either. And for good measure, G'iah is now back on the side of her father and Fury and tells them the whole entire plan and says the bags with the bombs will be marked with infrared X's. So of course in the next scene, Talos, Fury, and Hill have glasses that can detect infrared spray. They follow the bags that G'iah has, but then they quickly lose the bags. They split up and they go chase them. What ends up happening is Talos chases one bag, Hill chases another, and then Fury runs into the same girl with the same ball on the street. And obviously this catches him by surprise because he wasn't expecting to see her there, and the ball that she is holding is very distinguishable. It sticks out, so he instantly realizes what is happening. So Fury ends up following her, and the first time that she goes out of sight, she turns into the man from the bar. He goes out of sight again and turns into the woman who was making out with the guy on the side of the street that Fury came across. Then, once again, out of sight and turns into Gravik in human form. And this is where they realize it's all a trap. The bags are decoys, the bombs are already in place. Gravik turns around, holds up the detonator, wastes no time at all, which I love, looks at Fury, gives him a little smirk, detonates the bomb, killing thousands of people. Gravik walks away just staring Fury down until, of course, Gravik disguises himself as Nick Fury, goes up to Hill, shoots her, and kills her. So we think. And this shows us that Gravik has no mercy at all. He blew up an entire town square and he killed Maria Hill. And if you notice, as he's over Maria and he sees Nick Fury come up, he looks up and he is smiling because he is torturing Fury. He just killed one of the persons that he cares about the most in the world. So he looks at him with a big smile on his face. But another bomb goes off. He turns back into his human form and then he leaves. And then Hill dies and Nick Fury and Talos get out of there. And that is episode 1. A great ending to the first episode. Definitely a cliffhanger. However, a fantastic episode. But let us know your thoughts about it in the comments down below. What did you think of it? Did you like it? Please let us know. And did you spot any cool Easter eggs that we may have missed? Don't forget to like the video and subscribe and leave a comment so you can enter our giveaway for a chance to win an Xbox Series X, a PS5, some Marvel Legends items, or some DC items. The winner gets to pick one item and we pick a winner at the end of each month. Also, we have a Patreon account. If you want to further support the channel, we have a Discord server that you can join and we have a website as well. We'll link all of those down below. And of course, you can follow us on Instagram and Twitter. As always, thank you all so much for watching. Woof woof.